Hey there, heroes! Welcome back to another episode of Britt, Rachelle Cooks, where I'm going to cook something that is based off of a game I've really been getting into recently, the World of Warcraft. Today we'll be making buzzard bites, a recipe from the Hellfire Peninsula that's sure to get you buffed and feeling real strong, ready for any dungeon. I'll mainly be referencing the cookbook, of course, but naturally I'll also be putting on my own Britt Rachelle twist. I'll also be quadrupling the recipe, so my yield is going to be much larger than yours might be. For yours, you're going to need a pound of ground turkey, a half cup of breadcrumbs, 1/2 cup of heaping crumbled bacon. You can use pre-cooked, or I'm going to cook mine myself. 1 egg, 2 tablespoons of onion powder, 2 tablespoons of garlic powder, 2 tablespoons of minced garlic. I'm going to drain the juice off. And for the sauce, you'll need 1.5 cups of apple cider, 1 cup of ketchup, 1/2 cup of balsamic vinegar, and a generous pinch each of salt, nutmeg, and pepper. Let's apron up and get grinding. This is a very hands-on recipe in the literalist of senses. So make sure you take off any gloves, bracelets, rings you're wearing, and wash your hands before use. Another note, if you're making this out of apple cider season like I am and just don't have access to it, I recommend mixing some good old-fashioned apple juice with some spiced apple cider drink mix. It'll do about the same thing. Our first prep step, if you don't have pre-cooked bacon or bacon bits, is going to be to cut up our whole strips of bacon here into as small pieces as we can manage. If they're not super small, don't worry too much. They will shrink a bit in cooking, as they're going to be nice and crispy. Make sure you have a well-sharpened knife for this and wash your fingers. If you're using fresh bacon like I am, it's important to make sure this is the first step, since it's going to get mixed in with all the main ingredients. We want to make sure that these are done so that they're ready to be mixed in. Now that our bacon's all chopped up as fine as we could get it, we're gonna turn our burner up to about medium heat. Medium to high heat, I'll probably go about between 6 and 7 on my stove settings, and get all this loaded up onto my skillet. And the goal for this bacon is to watch it, make sure it gets nice and hard and crispy. I like a good rubber spatula myself, and start mixing it around. We've got a lot of bacon going on over here, so I'm going to prep my cooking area while I'm waiting for it. In this case, I'm going to be taking this baking dish, covering it in tin foil, or you can use parchment paper, and setting this off to the side. Also make sure I get a nice big bowl here. That way, when the bacon's done, we can just get right to work mixing these balls. Once you hear that sizzle and start seeing that steam, that's when you really want to start moving your bacon bits around so that they all cook evenly. And you'll pretty much just keep doing this until the pieces start to shrink and get crispy. Also, if you have a splash guard to put on top of your bacon pan, I highly recommend it, because the fat will start sputtering. I'm just going to keep a safe distance so that the grease doesn't hit me if it starts to splatter. Another thing you'll want to prep for your bacon is somewhere to put it. I'm picking this deep dish lined with paper towel so it can catch some of that grease. So while the bacon fat is very good for cooking the bacon, we're not going to use a whole lot of it in the actual meaty part. We're going to get as much of the small, crispy pieces as we can once this is all done cooking. Also, another important step, preheat your oven to 375 degrees. If you want your bacon any crispier, if you really want that dried crunch, you can cook this longer, but this is about the color that I wanted it. So I'm going to take it over to the strainer, get rid of a lot of this grease, and go from there. Yeah, very carefully. It's going to be hot. Put this into my strainer. We want to get rid of as much of that grease as we can. We want to double up on it. It's going to be very hot, so be very careful when doing this step. And let that cool while we mix up the rest of the ingredients. Our finally at the fun part. Just like your character in World of Warcraft who's going to cook with just their hands and a stove, it's exactly what we're going to do. Gonna plop all our meats and our breadcrumbs and just all of this into a bowl and mix it up. Throw all of these in here, and I do have some other breadcrumbs just in case we need it for the texture. The ones I'm using are seasoned sweet Thai chili, just to give them a little extra kick. Well, for me, I'm quadrupling the recipe, so it's actually more like 8, but... That should do it. Also gonna throw in some of this minced garlic for good measure. I'm gonna strain off as much of the juice as I can, but if a little bit of gets in there, it just means a little bit more flavor. That should do it. It's still pretty warm, so I'm just gonna start smooshing all this together once I add my 4 eggs. If you only need a single serving, you really only need 1 egg. I'm making mine for my whole guild, so I need a little bit more. Best way you can do this without as much mess is going to be to scoop from the bottom and kind of fold it from the top. Also want to take your little egg yolk and just break it for easy. Now our bacon's a little bit more cooled off, we can handle it safely and put it in our mix. Now we've got our meaty seasoned mixture all ready to go. We're gonna just take them into chunks, roll them into balls. Around the size of golf balls is your desired size, and spread them evenly on your pre-prepared pan. Once the balls are all rolled up and ready on your pan, you just toss them in the oven for 18 to 20 minutes. See you in about 18 to 20 minutes. To start your sauce, you can throw in your apple cider, or if you're using apple juice like I am, you can throw that in, and just make sure it's really well mixed in. Shake well before pouring out. I'm also going to add my balsamic vinegar. And if you're just making a single serving, a half cup will do. I'm adding quite a bit, so I'll need quite a lot. Be sure to rinse out your cup between the ingredients so you can get your accurate measurements. Oh.
Just do it again. Yeah. I'm just gonna skip to you forever pouring ketchup.
Right. And lastly, make sure you add your apple cider packets if you're using apple juice, so you really get that little spice going on. This is not a necessary step if you're using apple cider. Gonna mix all this together. I'm having it over medium heat. We're going to let this simmer for about 30 minutes or until the sauce really starts to thicken. If you need it done a little sooner than that, you can always add cornstarch to thicken it faster. Timer just went off. Time to pull these bad boys out of the oven. Oh, these look beautiful. You can even see the bacon coming out of them. Once your sauce is done, we're gonna coat these in the sauce, roll them around so they're nice and smothered, and give them a try. Here we go. Now you've got them nice and smothered, they're ready to serve. If you need that extra bit of flavor, just throw some more sauce on top. Now's my favorite part. Of course, trying it. I'm going to serve mine over rice, but you can serve it with veggies or really however you'd like it. If you like a sweet and savory treat, I highly recommend this recipe. It's so good. The bacon comes through the turkey really well, and the apple just adds that perfect bit of sweetness. Buzzard bites, huh? So I guess the first instruction is just like in World of Warcraft, quick and easy. Hey there, Peaches! Thanks so much for checking out this cooking video. I hope you enjoy this recipe as much as I enjoyed making it. And if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe to the page to see what's cooking up next. If you like this video, be sure to leave a like and share it with all your friends so they can also enjoy some tasty treats. I'm also on all of these other socials, the links of which can be conveniently found at breadcrumbs.com. So be sure to check all those out if you want to see what I've got cooking up next.